Hello, how you're doing? Welcome back to Where Whites Walk. This is the quickest, most compact, comprehensive view of Leeds content on the internet, and we're talking about the Pompey game. Let's do it. Welcome back, Jake and Adam, to Where Whites Walk. Appreciate your company again for another 20-minute chat on all things Leeds. Before we get into the game, Adam, was it just good to be back at Ellen Road with proper football?
It was indeed. I think plenty of people had a really good time, despite the draw. It felt like a bit of a defeat, though. But yeah, there was quite a lot of fans that I've spoken to that certainly had a really good day out, despite the draw. So yeah, just glad that football's back, and obviously we've got another game in midweek as well, so it's a busy week.
Yeah, Jake, many of the Leeds fans have said Pompey were some of the best away fans that they've seen for a while at Ellen Road. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I sit kind of at the opposite end of the ground to their fans, so I don't always hear the away fans, but I'll trust the ones in the sort of in the ends that are a bit nearer to there. So yeah.
Fair enough. All right, let's get into the football side of it then. There's no other way of saying this, is there? Is this same old Leeds, Adam? Dominate, should be 4 or 5-0 up and come out with a point.
Yeah, it did feel a bit classic. Usually that sort of thing happens later in the season, but actually we got it on game one this time, which was a bit of a change from usual. But yeah, just frustrating, to be honest. I think we created enough chances ourselves. We limited them enough to enough chances themselves that I felt like we should have won comfortably, as you say. And another day we probably get a bit more of the rub of the green in terms of the look, but there are still things we need to tighten up on. Obviously, didn't cover ourselves in glory on goals 1 and 3 in particular. Nothing you can do about goal 2 for them, but it's just one of them. I think if we play like that for the majority of the season, we'll mostly be fine, but there will be sterner tests to come than Portsmouth.
Yeah, there's been a reaction online to certain players, Jake, which we'll get into in a minute. But let's talk about the positives. Who stood out for you from a positive point of view in terms of their performance? Who are you impressed with?
I'd probably say I thought Bogle was quite good in the attacking sense, but defensively he was a little bit suspect. I thought Firpo was pretty decent. I think he's generally always at the very least sort of decent for us. In this league, I've not really seen him play a bad game for us yet. Yeah, I thought Joseph had quite a decent first start up front. I'd probably say I'd say Nonto was probably the most dangerous player, but sadly Farker took him off after about 70 minutes, which was a bit annoying. But yeah, I wouldn't say there were too many standouts. Though there weren't many sort of man of the match candidates. I wouldn't say, but there were some decent displays. I thought Piero did quite well from the bench. To be fair to him, I'm not really his biggest fan. I thought he was pretty good from the bench. Yeah, I'd say in general there was a lot of sort of maybe 6 out of 10s that sort of region, but yeah, sort of not great, but not too bad.
Okay, all right. Let's hit the players then that are coming in for some stick online. You can tell me if it's unfair, Adam. First of all, Dan James. I think I've got a take to show you in a second. Actually, that says something like, "I can't stand watching another 45 games of Dan James." Is the criticism valid? I mean, obviously it's built up over time. It isn't just based on 90 minutes. But where do Leeds fans stand on Dan James at the moment?
He's probably one of the most polarizing players. Like, I think most people can accept that he's like a fairly good, effective player at this level who will get a decent number of goals and assists and will always have a threat, like in the final third. But he is frustrating. Of course he is. Like, there were a couple of counter-attacks, one in particular, the ball got stuck under his feet and he just needed to release it to his left and we were away. And I've joked before on another podcast that attacks die at his feet at times, and that is certainly true. And I think other players are a little bit more decisive in those moments, but I think sometimes like his brain isn't always at the same speed as his legs are, which is obviously quite funny because he's very, very fast. So, you know, if his brain was as fast as his feet, he'd be a good player. But, you know, he's a good player at this level, in my opinion. And I think Jake would agree. It's just that occasionally you may be looking for someone else. But, you know, like I think back to the playoff final, and he was probably the one player when he came on as a sub that actually showed a bit and like, had a bit of attacking impetus, and you need that. So, you know, I still got a lot of time for Dan James, even though I do prefer other players, and I would like to see another winger come in. And we have obviously been linked with quite a few recently, just to give us another option, just to give us something different, so we can rotate a little bit as well.
Okay. You've already mentioned Bogle, Jake. Any other new signings that are on show that you can wax lyrical about? It's too early to say on many of their parts, but how do you think they did?
I mean, we only signed 2 so far. That obviously bar Rodon, who was here already. We only signed 2 that are new, obviously with Bogle and Rothwell. And Bogle was, yeah, as I say, he was good. He was good going forward. I thought some good little sort of bits of play from him. But I thought defensively, as I said, he was pretty suspect at times. You know, he gave away the penalty as well. As Adam said, you know, the first goal was a bit of a mess, really. You know, more so on his part for being completely out of position. Rothwell came on for a little bit, for maybe 15 minutes. He came on for. I thought he did fine. It wasn't really much of a cameo for me to make much of an assessment, really. But yeah, I think we need some more signings really before I can sort of judge. You know, the new players, because we don't really have too many at the minute. So.
Was it a penalty for you, Jake?
Yeah, I thought. I mean, from where I was because the referee took about 5 seconds to give it. I was shocked he took that long, because for me he was all over his shit. You know, he was in a chokehold almost. Was their player. I was shocked that it took him that long to actually give it. So for me, yeah, it was without a doubt a penalty.
The Pompey fans felt they got away with one. They didn't
really.
They didn't think it was. Adam, what was your view of it?
I thought it was. I mean, they were both tugging at each other a little bit, but Bogle certainly more. I personally think both penalties in the game were the correct choice, but the ref got quite a few things not quite right. But that was certainly 2 of the calls I thought he did actually get right.
Yeah, we'll get into ref bashing a little bit later on, I'm sure, in the season. Okay, ask you to rate some takes from the game. Yes, there's the one that I spoke about before. Can't watch Dan James. Moving on to that one. Someone tell Rodon he isn't Pascal Struijk. Jake, do you understand where that sentiment comes from?
Yeah, I do. I mean, his passing's not been great in pre-season or yesterday. I mean, Rodon's more of a kind of pure defender. He's not really as much of the kind of flashy sort of build-up player who's gonna sort of start off the attacks and the build-up player. But yeah, I mean, normally I thought last season his passing, it wasn't something that I would have sort of picked out to say this is one of his big strengths. But it wasn't that bad. But yesterday, yeah, there was a lot that were just going out of play. Whereas Struijk, that's kind of his forte really. He's more of a build-up guy. He's very good on the ball. He can sort of play out from the back really well. So I do see where that's coming from.
Okay. Adam, the next one on here, the last one there is just, you've seen them already, I'm sure. Very similar comments online, which basically said we got the same issues as last season. We don't put our chances away. Lucky to get a point in the end. Harrison's equal. How did he not miss that? Fark reminded instantly of our failings that are still apparent from last season. And as the top one says, he also got his subs wrong, which was a theme throughout last season as well. Does it worry you that mistakes and things from last season's still happening, or do we just need to calm down, everyone, and this will be all right?
I completely agree about the subs thing. That was definitely a persistent theme last season. I think he doesn't only make them too late for me, he sometimes chooses the wrong players, and like that was kind of apparent again yesterday with Nonto coming off. But with the other stuff, I'm just not so sure. Like, I think we played pretty well yesterday in terms of chance creation. Like, we weren't always consistently putting the pressure on, but we still created a decent number of chances to win the game, certainly more than they did. And I think we were just a bit unlucky in that sense. So, like, you can say, oh, there's bad finishing, but if Aronson gets that chance again, does he miss the way he did at the end? I'm not sure he does. I think that's just kind of him lose his head in the moment. That's not really anything that Farke can do from a tactical point of view. It's just a player having a bad moment, and we had a few of those in the game. Obviously, with Meslier on the first goal in particular was just really, really bad from him. And so, like, little moments like that can do with tightening up. Rodon, again, like what Jake was saying, he was a bit sloppy on the ball, so things can just tighten up a bit. But I don't think it's all on Farke, not all of yesterday. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, when just a final word on Harrison, Jake, would all have been forgiven had he scored that last kick of the game?
Yeah, I mean, it's somewhere to sort of redeem yourself, and after having stick from the fans, it would have been. It would have been. I mean, would have been amazing for him to come back and do that, but just wasn't to be. But yeah, I think as Adam was saying, I think the first goal was a bit more kind of instinctive. He didn't have that much time to think about it, but maybe with that second chance that he had in the last second, he maybe was just sort of overthinking it a bit, and was sort of really, oh my god, I've got to score this. This is such a great moment for me to score, and obviously just absolutely blasted it wide. So yeah, it's a shame for him.
Okay. Each week we're going to then ask you to review an element of Leeds' team. We're starting with the goalkeepers. We haven't mentioned the word Meslier yet. However, that was another name coming out on Twitter, as it does regularly when Leeds don't pick up 3 points in for a bashing. Let's have a look at your goalkeeping situation. Thank you to 11 versus 11 for these graphics. Adam, I hear him being called spaghetti legs, useless. The reason we didn't go up last season was fans blame him for some of the saves of QPR and other results. Is he a good goalkeeper?
I think he's okay. There's too many mistakes for me to say that he's good. And I think there's too many bad goalkeepers in this league to say that he's bad. Like, he's not as bad as some of the worst. He's just kind of middle of the pack, which when you are a team aiming for promotion sounds problematic. Would I have upgraded this summer if I was, a part of the club's recruitment team? Yeah, I would. Certainly something I would have looked to do. But at the same time, is it going to be that much of an issue? He might cost us a few goals this season, but like, it shouldn't matter in the end. We got 90 points last season, and if the defense in front of him in the midfield in front of him is solid enough, we'll be absolutely fine, and he won't be tested all that often. It's just if he's chucking goals into his net like the first one yesterday consistently, that is an issue. But like, I don't think he'll do that all season. It's just one of them. I'm hoping that. I think Farke said something like, if he had that again 9 times out of 10, he saves it. It's just that one time he didn't. Now, like, obviously some fans are going to disagree with that, and fair enough, I probably would, but I do think there's something in it. Like, I don't think he would do that. So goalkeepers wise, like, we're okay. I think Cairns is a good third choice, experienced head, good one to sort of set standards. I think Carl Darlow, from what we've seen of him in a Leeds shirt, not been great, but he's also got a lot of championship experience at other clubs. So he's a fine number 2, really. It's just Meslier, like, I have a few issues. It's just like, I think other areas of our team are pretty strong, actually, and he's probably one of the weaker links, but I just don't think it's like significant enough to be like overly worried or overly upset about it. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Jake, it probably won't be the last time we talk about Meslier this season. How do you rate him as a goalkeeper out of 10?
I'd probably go 5. I'd just go sort of slap bang in the middle. He's fine for this level. He's my thing is, when you're a good team in a league or in this league, and you're going to dominate most games, and you aren't going to concede that many chances, I think having an okay goalkeeper is fine, because they aren't going to be tested that much where they're going to have to make sort of crucial saves. And he does sometimes pull out a worldy save, like against Leicester last season in the last minute against Dewsbury Hall. That was a great save, and he can make these great saves, but it's more when it's longer range efforts for me. He seems to struggle a little bit. But I guess on the flip side of that, I'd say most of the shots we probably concede are going to be longer range, because teams aren't going to sort of carve us open that much where they're going to have one-on-one chances, and that's another thing. He's very, very strong one-on-one. 1v1. I'd say he's great, but apart from that, again, fine for this level. But on the whole, I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, he's a Premier League upgrade next season, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
If we get there.
Well, some will say he's the reason you won't, but yeah, I'm sure more on that one. Okay, finally then, West Brom then away this weekend. I suppose. Well, first of all, you didn't beat them last season. They are a tough nut to crack. How do you view this game going, Adam?
I think it's, even though they've just won 3-1 against QPR, obviously, and it was quite an impressive performance by most accounts I've read. But I think it's a good time to play them just because of how depleted the squad is and how thin they are in terms of numbers. I think if you could play this game in 1 month, 2 months time when the window's over and they've got a few more additions in, things are a bit more settled, I'd be more concerned. But for this game, it's a good time. I think Corberan's a great manager. I really do. I think the squad is, I don't know where West Brom fans stand, but I would say it's kind of mid-table championship, but he'll probably get them punching a little bit above that towards the playoffs again, somewhere in the sort of like 5th to 10th sort of region, I'd imagine. So it's a tough game in that sense, but like I say, you could think of worse times to play them when things are a little bit messy behind the scenes. Obviously, there's a whole issue with transfers at the moment and what they can do. It's going to mostly be loans, probably, and free agents for the rest of the window. So I like Corberan plenty, and I think he's a really good manager in this league, possibly one of the top sort of 2 or 3. And he will cause us some problems, absolutely, like he did last season. But I would rather play them this Saturday than any other time, especially because we've got quite a lot of players fit and healthy at the moment. We've not got many injuries, touch wood, before the game.
Okay. Before that, though, Jake, we're recording this before the Middlesbrough game, so we don't know the result of that. Would you play the kids against Middlesbrough?
Maybe not the kids, but I'd make some changes. I'd make probably 6-7 changes. I'd rest players like Firpo who are a bit injury prone. Maybe give someone like Ampadu a rest who plays every minute of every game pretty much. So yeah, I mean, with the cup, I'm not. I mean, it's the first round, so I'm not going, put it that way. I'm not particularly bothered about it until it gets a bit later on and it gets a bit more exciting. But yeah, I'd make some changes, but I wouldn't go too over the top.
Okay. Finally, if I offered you both a Carabao Cup win, so you can have a trophy this season, or you could have a playoff final at Wembley, what would you take?
I would rather win a cup because that's a once in a lifetime thing. Even though a lot of people want to get promoted, and I get that, the lottery of a Wembley final, I wouldn't want that an actual trophy and the chance to play in Europe. We've won, what is it, like we've got to 3 playoff finals, lost them all, and then 6 playoffs in our history that we've lost at some stage, either semi-final or final. So yeah, no, not that option.
Good. You're the only person that said take the cup so far. Everyone else wants that playoff. Jake?
I mean, I would be inclined to say playoff just because I do like the Premier League and I would like to be in the Premier League, but I guess the sort of football purists might shout at me for saying that. So yeah, I'll go with the League Cup as well.
Okay. All right. Enjoy your trip to the Hawthorns then. We'll catch you on here next week, where we've got a Yorkshire derby to preview next week. 2 away trips in a row here now, aren't we? We've got Sheffield Wednesday next week, Friday night at Sheffield. It's worse places than sure to be, but that's actually going to be a quite interesting game, I think, now after their result today. So we'll have a Wednesday fan on next week. We'll also talk about central defenders next week. Obviously, I think we all know who the main 2 will be. We'll also look at your options on the bench as well. So see you next week. Thank you very much. If you're a Leeds fan, subscribe. We'll catch you next week. Cheers, fellas.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.